Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we work on a Django project, a homeschool application that I'm building and have been walking people through my process for building it. We're going to continue on that tonight and start to build out a new feature that's been requested by my primary customer, who is my spouse, and she's asked me to make a year-end bundle. So she just finished a school year for her homeschool and wanted to generate a bunch of reports and basically come up with a collected view of everything that happened in the year for my kids, and it took a bunch of clicking around to do that. And so I want to make that a one-click thing that just generates everything, puts it into a big zip archive, and gives a bunch of PDF reports, and does all of that work with a very little effort on her part. So that's the plan. You're free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. And otherwise, we'll be working on the project. Before I get started, though, I want to take a moment to thank the patrons that I have on Patreon. If you want to support me, you're welcome to, but I want to shout out to Rupert, Andrew, Dragos, Patrick, Eric, Fred, Philip, Shivan, and Monty. Thank you for helping me out. Your contributions are starting to make this stream better. I've got some gear coming in that I'm actually adjusting to on this stream. So right before this, I was setting up new keyboards and mice, and I think I'll eventually get it all worked out where I have a nicer time of things here. So that's enough about my gear, though. That's not really important to what we're trying to do. Let's get into the project itself for this evening, which I don't think we're going to get all the way through, but we'll start, and we'll see how far we take it. I just had an issue with OBS right before the stream, so I got to resize a couple things here. So we are working on this feature to create a bundle, and let me start off by firing up the app and showing you what kinds of reports and pages we'll be looking at, and then what we're trying to accomplish. Effectively, what my spouse has asked for is just all of the reports in a single thing that she can store away as a record that can be used by the local government to prove that my kids did what they said, and just all of the resources that are there and all of that. And all of those reports are really available currently, and they just need to be exposed as an actual application or as an actual set. And so she's actually commented on the things that she's looking for. So she's looking for a progress report, an attendance report, a resource report, and then a full printed task list for each course. So there's going to be some effort that's going into this to essentially walk through each student that's in the school year and go through each grade that they're in, go through each course that they're in, and aggregate all of these things together. And there's a bunch of technology that I need to add to this project that I don't currently have. I don't currently do any kind of PDF generation, so we're going to have to pick a PDF library to work with in Python. There are some good choices out there. Some are harder to use than others. What I don't know, though, is how much they will impact my ability to deploy to Heroku. For instance, this is one of these areas where I might need some extra libraries that come from the operating system, some things that get packaged up. And frankly, that's not something I've done with Heroku before, so we're going to actually learn together, like if some extra dependencies are needed, what do I have to do? That also raises some interesting questions about my application. If the dependencies are needed, and I'm currently doing local app development on my Mac and using, say, Brew to install those packages, I'm starting to get I would be reaching a stage where the stuff that I'm developing with locally and the stuff that I am doing on Heroku begin to differ. And it may reach a point where I need a different distribution mechanism for my application. Dancing around it, but I'm speaking to Docker specifically. I'm talking about containerizing my application. I don't necessarily want to do that if I don't have to, because when you add Docker to a project, in my experience, it adds a lot of complexity, and making efficient Docker files is really challenging. And there's a lot of work that comes with that, which I'm well versed in because I have to do it at my job at Included Health. But I haven't had to do it with this project. And if I can keep things simpler, that'd be great. So I'm going to go in with the mindset that we can avoid Docker for now, and we can do this work without having to complicate things, but recognize that there is some differences. Then there might be some additional testing that I have to do to verify and make sure that I'm happy with everything. So let's go look at the reports page for a second, and let's make some comments on it before we actually get into it, because there might actually be some refactoring work that I want to do before we actually even get into any of the reporting part. If we look at the URL, which might be a little hard to read if you look at the bottom corner of this. Oh, cool. I was thinking of wheezyprint, right? It's good to hear that that it worked well for Heroku. So yeah, that's probably the path we'll be going down. So glad to hear that that's not crazy hard. So if we look at the URL that's for these reports, you'll notice it says the route is /reports, and then this is a progress report, and then this is the this identifier right here is for the school year, I believe, or it might even be the student. We'd have to take a look at the URL, but you can see that it's all rooted at reports. The challenge, though, is that the way I design the app, and again, I'm getting used to new keyboards here, so I'm going to be a little clumsy with some of the stuff, is that I don't have a special app for reports. And I initially made that decision because I didn't think I'd need it, but if I'm starting to get into the business of like having PDFs and doing other things, it feels like a logical clustering to want to have reports be in their own app. So I think what I might do to start is refactor so that I have a single app for all the reports. And I've already got a separate URLs file, so if we actually open up, so there should already be a report URLs, and you can see that I have rooted all of my reports in the schools app. And that was fine to get going, but with this new additional feature, I think it might be worth it to split this out. And so that's going to mean moving this set of views to a new app, going through that process of migrating them, of moving the associated test code to a new app. And so there's some changes. And so this is a bit of a mechanical change, but I think what it will lend itself to when it's done is a clearer structure for the application. It will also have this other benefit. I tried to think about, like, two steps ahead. What is the next thing that comes out of this? And if you have your own Django app, which, if you're not familiar with Django, is like the component that a project is built up of these apps. They're the different components and essentially the domain models that go with an application, which I'm now noticing I'm using that word in a clumsy way, with the entire web application. The Django app can have its own models. And while I don't have any plan for it now, there is a future where I could see generating a record each time someone wants to request a bundle. So perhaps there's some metadata about it of like, your bundle was generated on such and such a time. Maybe there is even a future where I take those bundles and store them on S3. So if I had any need to cache them for quicker generation, there's also the possibility. So this is actually going to take an entire school year's worth of data. I don't think that'll be a long process. Excuse me. But it's possible that the report could take such a long time that we want to decouple the request for the bundle from the actual activity. And if we do that, then there's a whole bunch of like user experience things that go in there. So my thought process here is, it would be nice if there was a single button that says get my bundle, and user clicks that button, and within a very quick time frame, they get back the option to download. Everything. Every time you click save an image or anything like that, where you get the standard operating system dialog to like download a file and store it somewhere, That is the experience that I want to be able to offer. I want that bundle generation to be so quick that here's a zip file like right away. But I recognize that the performance of that may prove to be not really possible. And I want to offer someone an experience where they click in the app and it feels very snappy. So I can either like telegraph to the user that, hey, this might take a few seconds to generate, and maybe that's okay as a first version. But the problem is that if my report generation is too slow, I could run up into Heroku's timeout window. So Heroku will time out a request after some period of time. I don't remember what the timeout number is. I have 25 seconds in my head for some reason, but that could be just totally wonky, made-up number. But there is a real timeout possibility here, that if a request takes too long, the application server will just drop it and fail the request, which would be a really, really poor experience. So if I need to generate a model, the two-step approach, then there has to be some tracking element of, hey, you've made a request here for a bundle, and it's going to kick it off to some kind of background work. 30 seconds. Wow, that's interesting, because I have a lot of reports to do, so it may not be doable in the time period I need. It'd be interesting to see how it shakes out. How many reports do you, or how big are your reports, Ryan? Just out of curiosity. So if it's too slow, we're gonna have to work it out. But I'm gonna go for the dumb version, I guess, and see how that experience is. And then we'll complicate it if we have to. But this is a feature that is really a useful thing to have. It is something that homeschool families, I can attest to this because I am one. We generally have to prove to the local government that we're educating our children. And so there needs to be some kind of historical record. All right, so let's start by doing that refactor. And I haven't created a new app in my system for a while, so this could be actually kind of fun. So we're going to stop the web server, and okay, pretty large. Longest takes 5 seconds. All right. Yeah, it'll be fun. Fun to get into. I don't know if I'm going to get all the way to a PDF tonight. That would be awesome, but we'll see how far we get. So the first thing I want to do is do Start App, and I wanted to create a new app called Reports. And that should create in this directory a Reports directory. Now, some of the structure though of my application, which is hard to see because there's actually a lot of files, and if you go to my project, which you're welcome to, it's on GitHub at mblayman/homeschool. There's a lot of files in this app because it's a pretty big application at this point. And what you may not see here is that all of my Django apps live in this homeschool directory. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take this reports app and we're going to move it inside of homeschool. But we're going to have to make some modifications from there because the move is not the only thing that you have to do. There's the fact that I've now positioning the application differently on the Python path means that in order for Django to discover it properly, it's going to have to look in some other location. So what we want to do is keep going up, and I actually probably want to have another school. I know there's another file I need to modify, and I'm going to have one side by side. So this is the thing that we're going to have to change. When I used the template, the start app command, it works from a template and fills in the parameters based on the report, based on the app name that you want. And so I have my own a basic file here, but if we get in here, we can see there's already a couple of differences. First of all, the template does not use black standard formatting. So as soon as I save this thing, it's going to change the single quotes to the double quotes, which is fine. The more important thing though is for actual app discovery, I need to preface this with the homeschool package name. That's step one. The other thing that we have to do is, now that we have the app config defined properly, we need to go to the settings and we need to add it to the list of installed apps. So here is the list of apps that I have for my project, And I guess there are, it looks like there are 8 of them. And so we're about to add number 9. And right here, we'll add homeschool reports. Okay. So that alone, we should still be able to run the app. This should work. And there's no problem. So it's loaded this new app. There's nothing in it yet, which is fine, which is exactly what we want, in fact. So I don't know how much of this will move across cleanly. This is the interesting part of this process, and that will take a little bit of iteration. So I do know, coming over here, that I want to delete this tests file because I have my tests in a directory. So let's create a directory called tests, and let's come in here and create a new file of init.py to make a package, because it's going to need to be one. So now we have a test package, and we'll move some test files in a minute, or some test cases that out of the test views from the other section. But I think what I want to do is see if I can get away with kind of just copying or moving files from one place to another and see how it goes. So we want to move the homeschool schools reports URLs, and we need to move it to the homeschool reports. And this is now, because it's its own app, it can just be urls.py. If we do that though, so let's add all that stuff, see what we're going to be adding so far. So you can notice that we've got a rename in that file because we haven't really changed it yet. The other files are going to be largely untouched, and we actually if I tried to commit this right now, I've got my pre-commit stuff is going to complain at me. So I've got some pre-commit updates that need to happen. So I would think, yep. So there's some unused imports, and I'm surprised that Black let that through. Maybe there's no more double quotes anywhere. So we've got a bit of cleanup to do here. So we're not going to have anything in the admin to start. We can delete that. And this is just my process. Like, I'm sure there are better ways that I could make my own template that is really already tailor-made to my project. But the truth is, I don't make Django apps that much. And going through this process of it is not that much work, in my opinion. So we're going to clear out the couple of files that actually need to be cleared out. There's just some unused imports, and we're going to fill these in later. So right now, we've got these views, but notice my editor is telling me, hey, there's nothing in here. So we've got the reports index view, the attendance reports view. All of these things they still live in the school's app. So they need to be moved out of that app and into this other one. And so that's kind of the next action that we have to do, because if I try and run this right now, I'm pretty sure the app's not going to start. Oh, it is. Okay, maybe it's if I is it if I try and refresh and yeah, okay. So it's still looking for stuff, and the funny part is, like, Gunicorn doesn't. This is one of my kind of beefs with Django, I guess. Notice that Gunicorn started without any problem, which is kind of funny. But it as soon as I actually tried to run the application, that's when an import problem happened. So Django is a little bit lazy in how it will actually load stuff, and there are tricks to kind of get it to force it to load earlier. But by default, it just doesn't want to do any processing until a request comes in, and it's at that moment that it says, oh, okay, I guess I need to go look at all the routes, and all right, well, I guess I need to go into the URLs file and check out what's in there and iterate through there and build up the list of routes and start doing all that work. But the problem is, like, the application server can come up fine, and you wouldn't know it until you got this real weird runtime error. But I knew that was going to happen. Just an interesting note for you about how Django operates. So we need to start probably with the project URLs and start changing some things. There is in here already this reports route, okay? And so you can see that this is pointing at the schools app. So we know we've already moved that file to over here. So now it's reports URLs. So that much should, it's still going to blow up, but it's going to be a different explosion. So I'm kind of taking this one little baby step at a time, partly so you can see it, but I like to take small steps myself just to be confident in the changes that I'm making. So now if I refresh, if I've got my mental model in place, I think what's going to happen is we're going to, the views that are trying to be added from the URLs, there's going to be an import error there. And that's exactly what happens. Or it's an attribute error because we're loading in the views module as a module and then trying to access an attribute within the module. And so it doesn't look like an import error because we're not loading in the view directly. It's a little goofy detail about the exception, but that's okay. So the next step then is we are now done with URLs. We've got the wiring. The top level project URLs is wired properly, and we're now ready to basically make the errors that are showing up in my editor, make those go away. So let's go to schools views, and we want the we want the report index view. And there's actually more refactoring that we can do here ultimately. We're going to need to move the template. Well, I don't need to, but I'm going to move the template as well. So the template path will change. But there's not a lot beyond that that actually needs to change, which is kind of nice. In fact, the way that I've written the tests after I've moved these over, they should pass because the way I write the test is such that that does a reverse lookup on the route, and the actual routing name is going to be the same because the app name is reports, and so the way that all of the tests are referring to the view is, for instance, reports : index, and that's still going to be valid after this change. So let's do this. Let's open up the reports views file, and it's gonna take a little bit of finagling because there is some imports that we're gonna have to pull in. But we want to get this view out of here. That's step one. And now that we do that, we need the login required mix in, the template view, and the enrollment. So let's go pull those things in. There's that. There's the template view is under from Django views generic import template view. And then we need the enrollment model, which I believe is in the students app. Yep. So from homeschool students models import enrollment. And for your purposes, if this is your first time joining the stream, you don't really need to know what these models are right now. It's all related to homeschool functionality. We'll get more into the data modeling later if we actually get to reports. I don't think we will too deeply anyway. I think my definition of success this evening might be like do this refactoring, get it committed, make sure the tests all pass. Well, change that order a little bit. Test pass first and then commit it. And then poke around at a PDF library, and I'm thinking of, we'll talk a little bit about the options that are out there, and Ryan already mentioned wheezyprint, which is going to likely be my choice, but I at least want to give you an idea of what is out there. And then if we can add that and prove that wheezyprint works, then I think that would be a successful first step. And maybe we'll set up some feature flag work to start giving us a place that, at least like in the user interface, we could click a bundle link and get it to start going. We'll see. So that's the first one. That gets the reports view. Then we need, what's next? The attendance report. So we've got our attendance report here. And all right, this one's got a little meat to it. That we can put right here. And it needs getObject or 404. You might notice me looking down at my keyboard periodically. That's because I'm like literally this is the first 30 minutes of me using this new keyboard, or new to me. It's a Microsoft Sculpt, and it's got pretty standard keyboard positioning, but my brain is used to two keyboards right now. One is when I'm not at my sitting with my laptop in my lap, I'm using the Kinesis Advantage 2. And if you've seen a Kinesis Advantage, it's pretty different from a lot of standard layouts. So my brain is wanting to think that this keyboard is like the Kinesis Advantage, and so I want it for instance, here's a good example. On the Kinesis, the backspace key, there's clusters of keys right in the middle for your thumbs. They make your thumbs more useful for typing. And there's like 5 keys for one thumb and 5 keys for another. And I think the backspace key is on the left thumb, so I keep wanting to hit the spacebar to delete, and I know that's not right, but that's what my brain wants to do. Anyway, you may not care about any of that. Apologize if you do, or if you don't. All right, so we need the coursework model, and we need date time. Yeah. So let's go in here and add coursework, and then also import date time. And it looks like now this is an unused import. So by moving it over, we have an unused import there. So no errors on the views, and I do that. So for me, this is a trick that I like, and it's actually probably what causes me to get really uptight about warnings and stuff, is if you look at my Vim editor windows, I've got 3 open right at the moment. They're actually called buffers in Vim parlance. But you'll notice that the top 2 have no gray bar on the side. That gray bar in Vim and in other editors like VS Code is called the gutter. In other editors, the gutter is kind of this persistent thing. It's always there. But what I like to do with Vim is make it so that if I have no errors, then the gutter goes away. And it's an indicator to me that this file is clean according to all of my tools. So if I have no gutter, I have confidence that I have no unused imports, no errors that are obvious to static analysis tools, and it's just a visual cue. So that's why not everybody likes that style. Some people like to have their gutter persist all the time, but that's not my style. So now that we have the attendance report done and I save the file again, you can see we're down to 2. So we're getting closer. Next up on the list is the progress report. And again, here's a Vim tip. If you want to do a quick search for something, there's multiple ways to search, right? You can do / and I could say progress report, and I could jump to that using the N key. The other thing that I can do is if you're on a word of some kind, you can do an asterisk or a star, or multiplication, whatever symbol you want, the shift of the 8 key on the ANSI English keyboard, and that will essentially do a search for that particular word on that word boundary. And then I can go to my other buffer, and now when I do my N key to search for it, it jumps right to that. So there's a quick way to do a search for whatever's under your cursor. So let's get the progress report next. Pulling all this stuff. A fairly lengthy one. Another reason to get some of these things out of there is they're getting sizable. So we'll go to the bottom, save that. Let's see what's missing. Missing Q, which looks like Q is no longer used on this file, so we'll move it over. And that was DB. Order that way. And we're missing, what else are we missing? We're missing the grade model, which is now no longer used on the school's app, so we can drop that there. And we can drop it over here and add grade. And missing decimal and round up. But neither of those things are used over here anymore. So let's delete that and add that. All right, so my gutter just disappeared, which told me that the report side is done. And I just saved on the schools app. It tells me I cleaned up all the stuff that I left behind over there. All right, we're almost done. We're at the resource report, which is a short one. Drop that on the bottom. Needs a course resource, which is here. Okay. So, I think we're done. Let's prove it. So like I said earlier, I think that my tests should all work because I referenced the views by their route name, the URL name, and not by other characteristics. Cool. All right, so the last thing to do to finish off this change is to move the actual test cases to a new test file. So we're done with the school's views. That's nice. And then we can open up the school's test views and look for reports, any test case with a report. So we've got the index here. I actually should probably have a destination in mind before I cut all that stuff. So let's go to tests, reports, tests, and create a new file, test views. And then we want the reports index, and it's probably going to be, yeah, looks like I've got all the views, all the test cases grouped next to each other. So this should be a pretty easy mechanical move. Resource report, attendance report. Got them in a different order here, but I don't care that much. And it goes to the end of the file. Cool. Paste all of them here. We'll need to clean up here. And if it's unused here, that means it's going to fix, it must be only in these test cases above, so it will fix up something if we move it, if we move an import that is unused. We'll do that. Time machine, time zone, the course resource factory. Okay. And then the grade factory. Is it? Yeah, grade factory. All right. Okay. So those are all still used. Then we need to bring in the test case class. And we're not quite done because there are some factories that are used in both places. So we'll need the enrollment factory from the students. That's the enrollment factory. And what else are we missing? Course factory, coursework factory. Coursework factory. All right, getting closer. What else is still missing? Need date time and school break factory. Where's the school break factory? It's in the schools app. This part of the process is not, it's not glamorous, but sometimes it's the kind of the cleanup work that you need to do to keep an app maintainable. Like I've been running this app for quite a while now, and managing it successfully as one person, partly because I take my time. And, time is not always a luxury that everybody has. I understand that. But it's been working well for me, the slow and steady sort of pace. Let's see if we can run these tests, see how they run now that we've moved them over. They all pass, so that's good. And just to make sure, we'll do one last check on the whole suite, see that everything's been cleaned up. And I think that should complete the actual refactor into a new Django app. I might want to make one kind of modification to my tools. I have a tool that will display models and stuff. And I don't have any models today, but if I forget it now, the next time I do generate a model, then it won't be included. So let's go to the make file, and here's this make graph tool. And I want to add in the reports app here, so that if I include one in the future, it will have all of that information. Okay, so let's finish it off, see how we did. And what's it going to see? So it's going to see a lot of these as new, because they are. And the one that it really could tell is the same is this reports URLs file. But we were doing enough splitting of this to make it so that Git couldn't tell a difference. So we've got a reports app with all its necessary files, the new tests. I just ran the whole suite, right? Yep. Modified settings. Okay, I think we're done here. There might be a little bit more that pops up with pre-commit as I commit this stuff. Maybe it'll find something else. It did. There were some sort failures. So what did I sort incorrectly? Okay. Pre-commit's a really great tool. Highly recommend it. It will do some nice work for you. Less typing on your part. I think it's precommit.com, if I recall correctly, if you want to learn more about it. We'll say refactor reports into a new Django app. And this is for, what number was that issue? 521. Okay. So I think we're ready. We're well positioned now to, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I lied. I forgot to move the templates. So let's do that quickly, hopefully. And then move on to the next thing. Sorry, y'all. So we've got our templates directory. Templates, schools. And here's our reports. There's the reports index, and then they're kind of postfixed with report suffixed. I think that's what I want to say. All right, so we need to create a new directory, which we'll call reports. And we're just going to move stuff. So let's move templates, schools, reports index to templates, reports. Now we'll just call it index, now that it's the only thing in there. And we can go back to this page, delete that, change that to a slash. There's one. Then we can move templates, schools, attendance report to templates, reports. We'll keep the whole thing on here, attendance report. That way all we're doing is renaming the directory. Progress report. And one more, right? Resource report. Okay. Oops. And if we return now to I promise I'll get faster with this keyboard. All of these should pass because it's just renaming the template file. Yep. Move port templates to their own directory. 4, 521. 521? Yep. All right. Next up, let's talk about PDFs. So we're generating some PDFs, right? That's the whole goal of this, is to create an artifact that a parent can, or an educator, doesn't have to be a parent, but whoever's using the homeschool app can do for the child that they're reporting on. They need to create a whole bundle. And so I talked to my spouse about, like, well, what kind of format would you want? I could generate CSV files, and there's lots of options, right? And she pretty emphatically said, like, well, if you're going to keep it simple, which I told her I want to keep it simple. I only really want to do one choice, preferably. I don't want the whole goal of the application is to be as simple as possible, and giving options can be useful at certain times, but there are other times where it's just like I just want to give a clear-cut answer. So her comment to me was, well, then it should be a PDF. Generating PDFs is doable, but there's added challenges that come with it. So I think what we want to do, let's go to Awesome Python and see if there lists like options here. So there's one called wheezyprint. What else will show up here? The PDF miner you can see is a tool for extracting information, so that's not what we want. PyPDF is about splitting and merging existing ones. I've used it. It's It's fine for what it does, but it's not for about generating either. It's more about taking existing content. The other big player that I can think of in this process is Report Lab. And I don't think there's going to be any other options aside from these. I could be wrong. Textract. Okay, that sounds like it's taking text out of PDFs, which is not what we want either. So we really have, that leaves with these two options. These are the ones that I know of anyway. And Awesome Python is pretty good at curating the list of packages on PyPI that are good. Not to say there aren't other great PDF parsing and print creating libraries out there, but I just have never heard of them, and I've been doing Python for a really long time and have a pretty good sense of what's in the package PyPI. So we've got wheezyprint, and we've got this other one, Report Lab. My summary of, well, I'll list what I know. I know Report Lab. Report Lab, it's I guess it's powerful. Lots of options. So with that comes a lot of complexity. So I used to work for an ed tech company, and the service was called Storyboard, still out there. And what Storyboard does is it allows kids to make books, educational, not educational books. It's used in classrooms, but it allows kids to write like short stories and like picture books and poetry and stuff. And one of the things that we did at Storyboard was made it so that you could actually purchase these books and get them professionally printed and like bound in like really high quality. To do that, we used Report Lab, and we generated these really high quality PDFs that we would send off to a printer. And the printer, like a professional printer, my product teammate worked very closely with the printer to work out all the fine details of doing that and having to consider bleed and all these other things that go into actual printing process. So to that end, we needed a lot of the power that something like Report Lab offered, because we needed really wild and wacky layouts that were generated by a JavaScript client that actually put things together and then had to reproduce something from that. So it's a challenging thing. So Report Lab was great for that. It was kind of a pain to use at times, but it did the job and then produced a nice result. So I'm not here, before you walk away with this, I'm not here to knock Report Lab on its abilities. However, Report Lab is, as I mentioned, a complex tool. And for what I want to do for this project and the kinds of results that I think the homeschool parent needs in order to document and prove to the government, they don't need like some professionally typeset kind of output. And I think that wheezyprint is going to be a better answer. Now, I will come right out and say, like, I have never used wheezyprint before. I'm going merely off of what I've heard from others, but my understanding of wheezyprint is this, is that you take, and I think Ryan might have even mentioned this earlier in the stream, you build HTML templates, and I'm literally reading Ryan's comment now, and you give them to wheezyprint to generate a PDF from the HTML. And that sounds pretty awesome. Like, I can build a table or a bunch of divs or whatever is required and a little bit of a style sheet and produce a result. And if I can get some PDFs out of that, then that sounds great. So the process of what we need for this bundle is a couple of levels actually deep. So not only do we need to generate PDFs from the reports, and they're actually, ideally we could use the same exact views and give them like a PDF option so that it has the same exact query set, so none of that information has to change, and maybe render it to a different template or do something along those lines that makes it a little bit more purpose-built for PDFs and wheezyprint specifically. But there's also another layer here, and that is actually generating a zip archive. So we have to do all this stuff in memory because I'm trying to avoid storing these actual PDFs onto S3. Like if I don't have to, I don't want to incur that cost. I just don't want to do that. So I want to make these bundles so easy and quick to generate that they can be generated at that point in time, records all the information, creates it, puts it into memory, generates the PDFs files, adds all of the PDF files to a zip archive. And Python actually has, if we search for Python and zip, there is a built-in module. No, that's the built-in functions. There's a way in here in the library. I'm at the wrong place. There's some kind of zip module. And here it is, zip file. And it's been a long time since I worked with it. But what I want to do is generate those PDFs, add them to the zip file, and then stream that zip file out as the response. And so when they click it, they're not going to get a new page to view. They'll just get a download option, ideally. So if we're looking at, come back over to the app. Let's restart the app. Now this page should load. It's the same exact experience as before, but it's all in its refactored place. I think what I want to do, most likely, is, and I might have to do some talking to my spouse here, but I'm most likely going to put a bundle column at the end. See if I can fit that. Might have to make some of these tighter, and we'll have to fiddle with some of the sizing here, but I think it'll still work. And if we have a bundle column here and have a button that's just like these that says view, and we click on it, I think we could do this in a two-step process. Like I think it would be lacking context if they click the bundle and it immediately gives them the zip prompt, or they're stuck waiting. I need to mentally prepare them that this process might take some time. Okay, so I think what I want to do is have a link just like this that says view, or it might say, maybe it'll say something different. Maybe it'll say get, or generate, or make something. And it will take them to a page that describes what the bundle is, so that they know, they like have prepared themselves that this takes a few seconds to generate. Just hang tight as it's going. That's kind of where I want to go. Yeah, so we kind of need like a bundle landing page, and then we need the actual like bundler page that will do the work. So I think the URL that I probably want to make is, it's going to be, I'm just looking at the URL up top here, reports/bundle, sure, why not? And then another view that's like reports/bundle create, or maybe it's the same view and we do a post, and the post is just a trigger that goes and does it and still returns something. I don't know how I feel about that, because it is like in terms of HTTP verbs, creation of a bundle does very much sound like a get operation. Like I'm asking for data. That's all I'm doing. I'm not submitting any information, at least not at this stage. There could be a future where the bundle creation is a bit more, like there might be some parameters that I want to put in there. Perhaps the user needs to specify an address or something like that. And because, like I said, the purpose of this stuff is to prove to your local government that you're doing what you say you need to do. And so some customer, I would imagine, is going to say like, hey, my government says I need to add this kind of field to my report. Can you make it possible so that the bundle will generate that in the process? And I want to accommodate in the future. But I think for now, I want to operate under the principle of it's just going to be a get request. There's not going to be any options. It's just you get what you get. And then we'll we can iterate from there. So let's do this. Let's modify the reports index to add this extra column. And for the bundle, yeah, let's see how that goes. So we want to go to the reports URLs, I guess, to start, maybe. Is that a good starting place? I don't know that it's the best, but that's fine. And this is going to be, what is this going to be? Actually, it might be a little bit more complicated than this, because it needs to automatically, it needs to factor in the year. So we need, or maybe even more than that, like these hashes, they're for student. Ooh, here's an interesting wrinkle. I could do this in two different ways. So, well, first, let me back up. Let me explain what these reports are currently doing. When you look at this URL right now, this is me as a fourth grader, which that was 1994 for me. But the URL right now in the corner says 5NEX20L, I think, or something like that. That is actually the enrollment. So maybe I do need to bring up the model for a minute. Let's open the models diagram. Oh my word. Getting used to new. There we go. So this is deep into the guts of the application. So here's the school. Here's the school year. Here's the student over here. The student is connected to a school year through this grade level. And so the student and the grade level are pulled together into this enrollment model. And that's how a user is actually, that's how every student is added to a particular school year. So when a lot of these reports are generated, it is actually done from the enrollment. Say like, okay, Matt Lehman is part of fourth grade. Let's get it from the enrollment, and then we can look up all the data appropriately and trace it up to the grade level that gets it from the school year. So one option for the bundle, I realize I just shook the camera there. So I'm still working on this new setup here. Apologies for any little weirdnesses here. So if I put the bundle here, what that does is it's naturally going to limit it to the individual student. And this is a table that is meant to show the way this report's index will show is all of the school years and all of the students. In fact, we don't need to go. I was about to go create another student so you can see it, but just take my word for it that there would be multiple rows here per school year per student. And if we generated a bundle that way, that's fine. It will generate just fine and would generate the bundle for that student, and maybe that's okay. The other option, though, is recognizing that when a parent wants the bundle, it's probably because they're done with school for everybody. And so the bundle could be a single button that says, hey, I want the information for all of my kids. I have 2 children, and I'm in the lower number case here. There's a lot of families out there, especially in the homeschool arena, that have lots of kids. And even if it's only, it's a like 1 click versus 6 clicks, it's still 6 clicks that they didn't have to do. So there's an argument to be said here that maybe there should be a listing of school years at the top and have a bundle option. Part of me doesn't like that approach, in that now this page gets a little bit more complicated. But there could be, it could be like two different ways of viewing the kinds of reports that you might generate. And this could just be an example of I care about the whole school year and I care about individual students. Like I care about Matt's progress as an individual task. So trying to convince myself of which way to go here. If we do go the route where we create a new table, then it's going to impact a couple of things. It's going to impact the layout of this, of course, and then where does that go? Does I would think my brain would want to put the school years at the top and then all of the specifics. So it's like you have your higher level view of here's the school years, and then your more detailed views of here's all of my students. That's one strategy. Or you put the school years at the bottom. That doesn't feel right, so I don't even want to consider it too deeply beyond that. The other factor in this is there is an empty view on this page. But when there are currently that empty view displays if there are no enrollments. And maybe that should still be the same case, because with this bundle, the bundle has no value until a student has done stuff, right? So if a student is not enrolled and has no opportunity to do anything, then why show even the option to download a bundle? That doesn't make any sense. I think I'm convincing myself that having this two different groupings and then having it so that the empty state of when it shows this like message of reports will show up here later is still fine to trigger on whether or not there are enrollments. So I don't think we have to change that. But we do have to add more data to the context of the reports index. So let's go to that. And we're also going to want to put the stuff behind a feature flag, which we can put parts of it behind a feature flag, maybe just the UI elements of it, so that we're not exposing this to new users, and it will still allow me to deploy the changes out as we're developing this feature. But some of the data behind the scenes, from their point of view, they don't know it exists, so it doesn't really matter. So let's go to the reports views and see what's in the report index view. So you can see already that there's not a lot to this view, and that's because it's a very simple table. So we want to get the school years too. It's got the enrollments in it right now, and we need to get more. All right. Let's bring up the reports test views as well. And I want to modify this test. Well, I'll just add a new test, actually. We'll take this one, and we'll duplicate it. As school years. That's what we're after. And if any of you have any questions, I know the chat, looks like the number of you jumping in and out is varying. I'm happy to answer your questions. It doesn't have to be just about homeschool, of course. There's like the point of this is to teach web development. So if you have any like general questions about Python development or Django specifically, like that's a lot of why I'm here, beyond just making my own app. But you know, that's right. If you don't have any questions too, I'm happy to continue to just plug away at this. So we have school years in the context. So we need a school year. And so let's change this to school year. And this is going to be a school year factory instance. It still needs the school. It needs to be connected to the user. Otherwise it won't appear properly. And we wouldn't have the right filtering check. And we probably need the negative case here to make sure that our filtering check is correct. So let's do this. And then we want to change this to school years. Ooh, rough first typing on this keyboard. Okay. All right, so it's not in there yet. We got a failing test. That's good. So let's add it now. We want to do add to the context the school years. And that's going to be school year, objects, filter, and we want the filter to be on school admin. And this is how I enforce like how a user accesses the right schools. Like part of that models diagram that we looked at briefly is that the user has access to all their data through this school. There's a school that's auto-created for them when they sign up for School Desk. And all of their data is rooted underneath this thing. So that's the mechanism that I use as an access control thing to make sure that somebody cannot get to the wrong stuff. So we need to add the right filter on there. And part of me thinks I should like add some kind of different manager to make sure that I never forget that, but it's fine the way I've done it so far. So I think this is it. We need the model. Oops. So now this test should pass. And it does. So we want another version of this test. And the difference is I want to make sure that my access control check is there too. So just like this one is, looking at this one here, it is creating an enrollment that doesn't belong to the user because there's no attributes to pass to this enrollment factory. So the factory is going to create a different user to connect it to. And that's the same thing we need to replicate here. So let's see, no other school years. And I like that doc string. Let's recycle it. Change it to be about school years. Another user's school years are not in the context. And so we make that true by deleting all the stuff that we're passing to the school year. And then this list should be empty. Oops. So we just need to create any school year. So there is a school year that's in existence to make sure that it's possible. And so if this test should automatically pass. But if I wanted to prove that my filtering was correct, I could just say, I could have changed this to, let's say, if I had done this by mistake, said all, then that gets everybody's school years in the whole system, the whole database, and that's wrong. And now we have the school year to back it up, to prove that filtering was required. Let's put the filter back, and now we have that context. So that gives us our table. And I think we can, from here, go to the actual template and create some extra stuff. Let's go to the reports index. I don't think we need to do anything else with the view, at least on the index view. And you can see here that, it might be hard to see. Here is the actual table that's displayed with all the reports. And so it generates a flex table and iterates over the enrollments and links to each report. and each report URL expects the enrollment ID as the thing that it's going to be looking at. And then here's the empty state here when there are no enrollments. We don't want to change that. So I might want to do, do I want to clean this up? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Let's create a new file. We're going to say, this is going to be a partial. We'll say enrollment reports, HTML. And then we're going to go back to the index and take this whole table and put it in this partial. And then, all right. So now we have the enrollments reports moved over, but if we go over to a page and refresh it, whoops, once we're actually got the application server running, you'll see this would be a bad refactoring if I left it this way. Oops, we lost all the reports. That's bad. So we need to not only move it, but then reference it in the right place. So coming back to the index, we can say, from here we can say include reports, enrollment reports, I think is what I called it, right? Okay. So I did that just so that the template that we're seeing in the index is a little bit more manageable to see, because even I was having a hard time of like, well, what is the thing that we're actually doing here? And I don't want to go too crazy with this. Like, there is this temptation to make everything into little partials and includes, and I think that's a little overkill. I mean, I could make the case that this empty state could be extracted into its own partial, and then the reports index page looks very, very straightforward, but I'm not going to do that. But what we are going to do is we're going to presume that there is a new reports partial that we'll put here, and we'll call it school year reports, with the expectation that maybe someday there will be something beyond the bundle that I want a report for about the whole school year. And so we'll save that like that. Come back up here, create a new file, and create school year reports. Save it. And this should still load just fine. Okay. All right. So I want to take the enrollments report that we just did, that thing, and I'm going to reuse the layout. I'm using Tailwind CSS, so a lot of the actual styling is defined in these CSS classes, and most of them are what we want. The data itself is what we want to change. Let's close this. We're now, let's make sure that we're in the right one. We're in the school year reports, which is where I want to be. And let's get rid of these bottom four. So it's going to be a small table right now, just okay. And I'm not going to change the enrollments, the thing it's iterating over yet, because I want to see something show there, but we'll modify it in a minute. So let's take out, we might want to keep actually some of those. So let's take out, because I want to keep the URL file structure. Take out those two, and then these two. That leaves us, it's going to look a little funny maybe, Welcome system 32 Delta 124. Your eyes hurt. I presume you're commenting on the fact that I'm using a white background and a white terminal. I had another viewer, and he convinced me. I presume it was a he. I don't actually know. I don't recall. And I switched to a dark terminal. I tried it for like 6 months on stream. So you can go back. Like I'm on YouTube, and you can find my stuff if you search for Matt Lehman on YouTube, and you can find a window of time where I was doing the dark terminal thing, and I just didn't like it. I don't know. Maybe it's me. It's probably me. I gave it a good college try, whole semester's worth of time, and it wasn't my style. But you know, I use Flux, so I'm actually looking at something that looks very amber colored. I apologize that I'm making your eyes hurt. All right, here we go. We got so now we've got this new table, and this needs to change the labeling. But this is kind of what I want to show. It's like we're gonna have this table that is for the student. What am I working on? I'm working on, this is a Django app. So that's the technology, like from getting the technology question out of the way. It's Python, it's Django. It's an app that's deployed to Heroku as my development, as my hosting platform. And the app has been out there for like a year or two now. And specifically, it's a homeschool application that I'm build for my family. Was my first customer is my spouse, and then I also have other customers who are using it. So the thing we're working on tonight is starting to build in some reporting stuff to make a school year's worth of data available as like archival reporting that can be done and stored by a user to prove to their local government that they're actually teaching their kids. So we're currently like starting to hook that up into the reports index page. Yeah, I'm trying to help the homeschoolers. I mean, selfishly, like it's me trying to help my own spouse. So really, it started as a project for my wife because she's the person I want to help more than anybody in the world. So that's what I'm doing. So this is a page we're gonna have. This will jump off into some other spot that will we talked about that earlier about what that will link to, but this will be fine for now. The other thing I want to do is flag this stuff with some feature flags so that until this feature is ready, we won't have this visible. So, it's waffle tags. Waffle tags, yeah. Okay. So we need to load waffle tags. So waffle is my feature flag library that I use to make it possible to flag things. And then we want to flag this whole thing. Question. Okay, here we go. Let's not put it here. Let's leave this partial just as it is and go back to the index page. And we'll put the flag here in this page. So we'll say waffle tags. Whoops. And then right here in this section, we'll add flag. And the flag is, what should we call it? Report bundle. And just so I can clearly find it later in case I happen to use the name report bundle for something else, some other purpose, we'll call it report bundle flag. Okay, so now that should be, flags are disabled by default. So if I refresh the page, I'm going to make that section disappear that I just added, which is totally fine. I noticed that I'm not in my like super user account, so I don't have the controls to go turn on the flag. So let's log out of here and log in as this is all testing local data, so it's just nothing important. I think it was, yep, there we go. So let's return to the report section. You see it's still missing. Now we actually have more data to look at too. That's useful. And if we go into the Django admin, go to the flags, because I hit the page for one time, it went ahead and added a new column, excuse me, a new row to the table. And we can come in here and turn it on. Now it's on. And go back to the site. Go back to that new page. And there we go. So, curious. There are, it's still looping over enrollments right now. That makes sense. Okay. So that's the changes for the index page. So now we need to loop over the school years that I added to the context. This is going to be a new report section that's focused on school years and not enrollments. And we don't have the URL yet, so I'm just going to delete all of the actual URL so that doesn't blow up on me when it's referencing a none. And this should now go down to the 2 years. Oops. Okay. Okay, we've got school year. Boom. I wonder, did I set the order? I think I might have ordered those differently. Yeah. Okay. So we need to modify this so that the order that I have on the enrollments is by the grade level start date, by the school year start date. And so we want the same ordering effect on the school years. Let's do order by, and then we can say minus start date, I guess. We're already all the way up at the school year model level. Okay, and coming back over here now, because I noticed that these are chronologically oldest at the bottom, and these are chronologically oldest at the top, which is very confusing. So if we refresh, then we've got newest at the top, which matches up with what's displayed here. And maybe here's an opportunity. Bundle is not going to be very meaningful, so let's put a more meaningful label on here. So we'll say year end bundle, and I don't know if that's going to fit. Might wrap. I need to adjust. Oh, it fits. Cool. Okay. And if my wife hates it, she can tell me that. Well, she doesn't hate the app. If she doesn't like how this looks, she can ask for a different view of this. So this currently doesn't go anywhere. That's okay. I could deploy this right now after I committed, and it would be totally fine because the feature flag is off. So this is like our safe space to work on this until we're happy with the change. So I think the next thing I want to create, and maybe the last thing I'm going to end up creating for this evening, is the actual place where I mentioned that there will be like a bundle, like a landing page that basically describes, hey, here's what you're about to get. And it's going to include all of these reports for your blah, 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 blah. I don't know. We'll figure out the copy in a minute. So where do I want to put that report, I guess? We've got our index, and if I group them kind of in a consistent way, I could put the bundle page. It's like at the top, kind of first part of the index, so maybe it belongs right after this index view. I don't really have a strong justification for that, but I need something somewhere. Let's start by copying this, and then we'll change this to the bundle. We'll just call it the bundle view. And we'll make bundle.html. And we'll go to the report URLs. And here, we need this to be specific to a school year. So it needs to have that as a parameter. Yeah. So we want actually something more along the lines of this. And we can change this to be bundle. Still going to be a hash ID PK because we want to get the school year later. And we'll use that in a minute. And we won't call this attendance, we'll call this bundle. And it's the bundle view. Can I fit this on a line? Nope. Okay. We've got our bundle view here. So this template doesn't exist yet, but we can now reference this in the URL. Let's do that. Let's go back to the school year reports page. And now here, we can change this to be URL reports. Come on, that. Reports bundle school year ID. That should work. Come back to the page and refresh. If you look in the corner, you can see report/bundle/ a hash ID, which corresponds to the school year. But if we click this page, it's going to blow up with a template error because we haven't created the bundle template. We can fix that problem by minimally creating an empty file. And it's going to refresh into a page that is now empty. So we need to put something in here. And I'm trying to think of what I want to put on this page. Let's search around for an SVG. So we're going to go to undraw, which is where I use all my SVGs, or get all my SVGs from. Let's see if there is anything. Just search for bundle. Anything show up? Hey, that's actually kind of cool. So the challenge is I need to make the color right. So I have to turn off flux for a minute so I can actually see it. So I'm going to make my eyes bleed too, for those of you that are staring at white and complaining about it. So my app uses a shade of blue. It's this color. If I inspect here, I'm never going to remember exactly what the color is. Oh, come on. There it is. My blue 700, where'd you go? Text white. Da 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 da. Oh. Come on. Listed in a non-helpful way. RGB. Okay. Maybe I'll do my color picker. There it is. 2B 6C B0. 2B 6C B0. So the cool part about Undraw, if you've never encountered Undraw before, they've got vector graphics for all sorts of things. It's free, which is amazing, and it's customizable in that I can drop in a hex color here, and you may not have noticed when it happened, but actually the file bundle image that I'm thinking of using, now her shirt and all of the little highlighted text changes to the color that I selected, which is a really great little feature. So now when I download it, it will already have the color in it, and I don't have to modify anything. So I download the SVG, and that's the Undraw file bundle. Okay, so we'll say save it, and it dropped it into my downloads directory, and I need to remember where my SVGs are. Static. Okay, just write it static, huh? Okay, so we want to move the downloads Undraw file bundle to static as bundle SVG. And I don't remember if these are optimized or not, so let's go ahead and optimize it. Take out all the extra little artifacts and stuff. I think they switched them to be like already optimized things. So we need to go to my home area, and then projects, homeschool. I just opened it from there. Oh well. Okay. Yeah, it's 19K, so I don't know that it's going to get a lot smaller, but we'll see. Yeah, got a little bit out. Image Optim is a really cool tool. All right, so I think what I want to do, maybe to start actually, is to use the similar empty state. Let's do this. Let's actually take the index and take that content and put it in the bundle page as a starting point. I don't know why it's looking that way. There we go. And we'll call this the year end bundle. You won't see that in the title because I don't show that part of my browser. But we're gonna need to drop the waffle tags because we don't need it. And what I'm gonna do here is go straight to the empty state of this because it's actually pretty close. And oh, that's weird. Why is this? I think I forgot to delete this too. I might have deleted too much. Hold on. Yeah, I think I deleted too much. Yep. Okay. Delete this. Move the tag. Okay, there we go. Then we can change this to be year-end bundle. Now, if we come back to the page and look at this, whoops. Refresh it, and it should show like the empty state of what would be there. But that's not what I want to show. I instead want to show, first thing I want to do is change the graphic to be not the typical one that shows on the report page, but this new little bundle. And we'll say bundle of reports as the alt. Now, this is where, like, there will be more copy here than what is currently shown. I probably won't wordsmith it all on stream, but we'll at least get the basics in here. We'll say create a year-end bundle. We can say like something, I don't know if we want to treat it as they've already done it, because most of them may not have come to this page unless they're actually done. So it's not like I want to congratulate them, because they might just be starting. When your school year is finished, you can generate a zip file bundle of all the year's activities. That's a start. I need to change. Use the wrong quote mark. Where do I use the right quote mark? Start. Yeah, there it is. I don't want a straight quote for my template. Doesn't look as professional. Something I learned from my typesetting friends at some of my previous jobs. They'll see it straight quote and it'll immediately jump out of them as someone who doesn't know what they're doing with typography. So we're going to get a proper quote in there. And then the other bit we want to say eventually is, so let's put in what else needs to happen here. Do what's included. A warning about time to create. And then we actually need the button to trigger creation, which will be a separate view. So my what's included will probably be a bulleted list. Yeah, I'll just keep going. I feel like I'm making progress on this in the way I want to, and I'd like to see it come to some version of completion. Where can I go for a bulleted list I like already? Core, okay, templates, core, app. Start banner. I think I made it as a list of. No, that's not the right thing. Shoot. Well, rats, where is this thing? There's a thing that I can get to. Maybe I'll just navigate there. When I complete my onboarding activity, and then I go to see my school year. There it is. So what is this page? Search for awesome. not the right one. School year detail page. Okay, went to the wrong section. There it is. There's the bulleted list I'm looking for. So we want to do something similar. So we'll put a margin bottom of 4. And another paragraph. So we'll do all of these things. Now this is not going to work. Maybe it will. No, this link will break. So will this one. Okay. But it has the style that I'm interested in. That's why I pulled it. Okay. Go back to the bundle page. Ooh, that looks really rough there. But we can fix that. Change it to font light. Font light. And these are not going to be links actually. So we don't need any of that tag stuff. Okay. So we need to say a bundle includes drop this below for a moment so it actually looks like the final product. And then refresh that. So that's going to be there. Progress report, attendance, resources, and then the list of completed tasks for each course. For each student, that'll be important. Progress report for each student. There are not multiple reports for the student. And then the attendance report. And all course resources. And then the list of all completed tasks. Yep. I think this one needs to have more space. MB1 right now. That looks wrong. Give it 4. Yeah, that looks. Oh, that's better. And I'm going to say, we need to say as PDF files. And then we can say, this is where we can put the warning. This may take a bit. Please hang tight. And we're going to need a button. The button. What style button should we use? One of these. We'll clean that up in a second. I don't know where this is going to link to yet. We're not going to get that far tonight, but we can leave it and say generate bundle. Yeah, this looks. No, not generate. It's a very like programmery word. Create bundle. Use the same language that I used in the title. In fact, we don't. I could do one of two things. So I could say up here we could change this to reports to let a person know they're still in the reports section. Okay. Noticing like there's some navigation stuff that's a little off here, like the progress report, for example, loses the highlighting. The attendance report loses the highlighting. So maybe that's, I'm being consistent at least. It's losing it. So we could say this is a reports thing. And a lot of my navigation was actually kind of like a breadcrumb where it has a little arrow that will show, like if I go to the school year, there's a little arrow here that shows the next thing. So maybe I want to do something similar. They don't do that for most of these. They don't, like I've got this title here. It's not what I want. I think I would rather it be like reports and then little arrow and whatever it is. So this one's going to be reports, create a year-end bundle. And that way it'll get rid of this like double title issue that we've got one here and it's kind of distracting. So let's go back to the school year detail page. It's a good thing we're still on there. And take the SVG here and put that right here. See if that looks right after we're done. Yep, okay. And then after it, we'll put create a year-end bundle. Okay. Now I think we can get rid of this title. Yeah, this feels good. It's got a little graphic to keep it interesting. It tells people what they're doing. It tells them what they're going to get. And it gives them a clear single call to action around the page. And it warns them about the time generation that might be involved. So I think I'm happy with that. In fact, I think that's a good. Well, let's do one more thing. Add a test to make sure that that view is covered. And then, because there's another bit here that we didn't take advantage of. Okay, so we're not quite done. Got a little bit more. There's a test. We want to add the school year to the context. So actually, we need to say, we want this to say, create a year-end bundle for the 2021-2022 school year, whatever it is. So we can't do that though until we get the school year into the context. So let's go to the reports views, bring that back up. We're going to do we need the get context data. And this is a bundle view. That's where we're at. We need to return that context, or else we're going to be in a world of hurt. And we want the specific school year where the ID is matching to the particular PK. We're going to do it like this. So we're going to do a combination 1-2 punch here. So we're going to take this, we'll put it here. We want this to be school year. Actually, let's make this a get object or 404. So if somebody doesn't have the right access, we definitely want this to blow up in their face. And then we should put this at the end. Make it actually something valid. The user is the request user. And there's a bunch that's still wrong with this. We don't want objects filters, so we want to do get object or 404 can take like arguments here, and we only need to use the objects manager if we're doing like select related or something. So we can not do that. Instead, we'll do pk equal self keyword args pk, and the school admin is equal to user. We can get rid of all the rest of that. Will this fit if we do this? What is black gonna do? Nope, it's gonna reformat it that way. So I think that should put the school year in the context the way we want. Now if we go back to that bundle page, and we can say create a year-end bundle is going to be the title, which again you couldn't really see. Create a year-end bundle for then we do school year, and it's going to get the representation, which will include the year in it, or the years if it spans years. We'll say school year. Is that title 4 supposed to be capitalized? Alright, here's a cool little site that I use embarrassingly often. There's a little site called Capitalize My Title, and you just literally type in the thing. Create a school year for the 2021 school year. Okay, I was right. So it's lowercase f. Handy site. There we go. So it's a little bit wordier now, but it gives the right context. And I feel like it's extremely informative. Now, the other option we could do, the downside of this approach is that this isn't clickable right now. Whereas if you go to this other stuff, these are clickable. But the same is true if you go to here, this is not clickable. So I could actually argue that it would be more consistent for the time being to just drop the caret in the reports thing. Makes the page a little shorter too. I think that's what I want. Okay, cool. We did that completely untested. And in fact, if I tried to run the coverage report, right, the tests with coverage, it would fail because it would say that these lines are not called because they aren't. So we need to go back to the reports test views and actually create a simple test case for this new page. And we need some basic stuff on here that is going to come with these other ones too. So let's start with this much, those first two tests. And we can do reports bundle. We need a school year here. School year factory. This one doesn't matter what goes in it, but we need the school year PK. Oh. That's the wrong bundle. And this should also be test bundle. Bundle view. Okay, so that just checks that I included the login required, which is necessary to make this line work and not be an anonymous user. So now we need a school year for this particular get test, and we want the school admin to be the same as the user. It's actually connected. And then we need to provide the school year PK, make the URL valid. And finally, we want to assert that the context is in there. So we want to say actual is equal to expected. So self get context. And we'll say school year, it's the context name. It's equal to the school year. It's a basic test that proves that that's right. It's still important that this page, that the user does not get access if they are not right. So we want to have the test no other school years, and that's going to be self, not det. A user cannot access another user's bundle. We want all the same stuff, mostly. Now we want to have a school year, but have it be a different one. And we want to come down here, and this time we want to say response, I think. No. Just get. Put in the response like this. And then we want to delete this line, and we want to have a 404. That's what should happen. Okay. Now, I already put in the right filter, so let's confirm that that would have failed if I delete this portion like that. Yep, cool. So we didn't actually get to the wheezyprint stuff this time. Maybe they'll give me a little bit of chance to read some of the documentation so we don't have to stare at that together next stream. But we're sort of setting ourselves up here to handle this bundle. The goal in the next stream will be add wheezyprint to the project, start to render some things, see if we can generate some PDFs, see how long that's going to take. And looks like we've got all the coverage we need here. And then see if we can put that into a zip file. I don't know if we'll get that far, but we'll try. And that will be the goal. So I will probably do something along the lines of generate a first version of this, keep it behind a feature flag, and then turn it on for my spouse, and then have her check out the bundle and then see if she actually likes it, see what she doesn't like about it, and then we can work from that feedback. So rather than just guess about what she's going to need. So I can get a basic version going and then make it progressively better. That'll be kind of a future stream, so maybe take 2 or 3 more streams to get this kind of stuff done. The other projects that I've got planned for this year are to add some extra modeling concepts of like field trips and things to the school, and that's ongoing work. So I think with that, I'll end it here for the evening. Hopefully you learned something tonight and saw some cool things happen along the way. I do take this content and post it up on YouTube. So if you want to catch any other streams that you might have missed or look at other topics that are there, you can certainly find out some stuff there. Dancel, thanks for joining in. You always can like, follow. If you're over on YouTube, I guess it's a like. If you're here, it's, what is it, a follow? That would really help me out. Hopefully you can do that and catch me. I do typically stream every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States, except when I'm running my local Python meetup, which is once a month. So about 3 or 4 times a month, I'll be able to stream here and show some progress on this app. Thanks for joining in, and have a good evening. Take care.